Hello, everybody. We have the great pleasure and honor to welcome one of the all-time greats here today with us, Mr. Peter Frampton. Peter, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to coming to see you guys.
Yeah, it won't be long until you play your final farewell shows in Germany.
That's correct.
So let's talk about that. How, with a career as vast and with a back catalog as vast as yours and as diverse as yours, how difficult is it to make a Peter Frampton setlist on the one hand, but on the other hand, a farewell Peter Frampton setlist?
Well, I think it's it's pretty easy. I mean, because we love doing certain numbers, and we enjoy doing certain numbers better than others, I guess. We'll always give the crowd the ones that they, most of them really want, but yeah, we change it up. And it'll be, it's a retrospective. It's from the beginning to now, basically the set list is picked from.
On the last leg of the tour, on the American leg, there were a lot of cover versions. For example, a brilliant cover version of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden and a lot of other things. Will the setlists be kind of comparable, or will there be surprises for European fans?
I think there will be, I'm not sure about surprises, but there'll be, we'll definitely be doing Black Hole Sun, that's for sure, yes. I mean, I love that. Even Matt Cameron, the drummer from Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, played on my version in the studio. So he not only played on the Soundgarden version, he played on my version. And he came to see us play, and he's played it live with Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. And he said after he came to see us play in Seattle the last time, he said, "Wow, you've made that song your own, haven't you?" So it's our own version, and we love it. It's pretty involved version because it's not vocal, but there is a little bit of talk box in there and stuff like that, So it's fun to do.
I would love to talk about you as a guitar player today a lot, and you as a composer, but let's quickly talk a bit about the reason for the farewell tour. If I may ask, how's it going health-wise for you?
It's going well. In fact, I saw the head of the myositis clinic in Johns Hopkins came to visit me in Nashville the other day, so it was great. Dr. Lisa Christopher Stein, and yes, so there's new things on the horizon, new drug trials and things like that. So I'm just very optimistic. Yes, it's affecting my legs more than anything else in my body, but it is, so that's why we're going to be sitting down for the show. But it is starting to affect my hands, but not, but every time I pick a guitar up, because I'm practicing every day, obviously, and they know the fingers know what to do. So I don't think anybody will notice.
So the guitar playing will be brilliant as usual.
Well, let's hope so.
You said it hasn't affected your playing at all, just a little bit the hands. Now, I was wondering, some jazz players, I've read some jazz players, when they get a bit older and their hands can't keep up with, for example, the speed of what they used to be, they adapt their playing style a bit. They make different choices of notes, different choices of ways to play. I was wondering, do you think about those kind of things?
Yes, I do make choices. Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah. I know the way it may be less notes, but more soul.
Yeah.
It's there's more meaning. Every note to me now means so much more than it did before. They did before. So yeah, and I have adapted my playing a little bit. But as I say, I don't think many people will notice any change, but certain things I've had to just adapt, and but as I say, there's very little change at this point, which I'm thankful for.
That's perfect. When I read your autobiography, there were two things that fascinated me when you talked about your, let's say, early socialization as a guitar player. For instance, on the one hand, you said you weren't crazy about Elvis, but you were crazy about his guitar player. So you were much more fascinated with Elvis's guitar player. And the second one was when you talked about your father, who was listening to Stefan Grappelli and
Django,
and of course Django Reinhardt. And you at first kind of didn't like it because you said it wasn't like a Stratocaster through a Vox amp, but then you grew into it. So I was wondering, in the beginning, what kind of guitar player did you envision to be, and what was your guitar socialization as a player?
Well, I wanted to be Hank Marvin of the Shadows. There's no two ways about it. And we are really good friends and have been for many. It's so amazing not only to be friends with your hero, the one that he is definitely the reason that I became the guitar player. And they are the Shadows. And but not only that, I got to record with the Shadows on the Fingerprints album, the instrumental album, and I joined the Shadows for a week. So not a week. I joined the Shadows for a full day, 24 hours. We were in the studio nearly, and I can't tell you what that meant to me. That was so incredible, and so I think my melodic sense has come from starting with the Shadows, the Ventures, all the instrumental guitar bands of the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. And then, then I listened to a lot of blues and obviously a lot of rock, different guitar players. But I think my style is putting them all together, a little bit of jazz, Django. I mean, those augmented runs that he does are just, I love those. And I can't do them quite at the speed. I've never been able to do them at the speed he does them, but I adapt those into my playing too. So it's a combination of, I mean, if I had to choose one guitar player that has influenced me the most, it would be Django, because I started with Hank, and those early Shadows instrumentals, and then I listen to Django every day, just so I know. It reminds me that I'll never be as good as him, so that means I have to get going. But I think Django Reinhardt could play a run that would dazzle you from the open E, low open E to the top D on or whatever his top note was on the E string, and it will go brim, and that's it, And but then he'll play one note throughout 5 or 6 chord changes, and it works in every situation, and he keeps playing it. And it's so soulful when he does that. So it's all down to choice of notes for me. It's not how fast I can play. The guy with 1,000 notes a second, if it is okay. Les Paul said, guy with 1 million notes, he said, that's great. He said, but the guy that has the one note that is the perfect note for that moment can blow away the guy with 1,000 notes, because it's got feeling. It's the right choice at that particular moment in the piece of music. And I've always thought that, hey, I wouldn't call me a shredder, but I can play pretty fast, but I don't always choose to, because that's kind of showing off, that, oh, look what I can do. Whereas from my standpoint, it's always been, how can I move myself? How can I get the emotion into the playing? And it's something that you can't even think about, because it's something that just happens. But that's my outlook, I want to play something that gives me goosebumps. And, that makes me feel good, in which case, hopefully, it's going to move other people.
But in terms, coming back to Elvis's guitar player, Scotty Moore is his name, obviously. I quickly forgot. Who's a friend of yours.
Well, he was. Unfortunately, we've lost him, yeah.
Of course he was, I'm sorry. Did you always, because some people would much rather be Elvis than the guitar player. What would your aspiration was to be the guitar player in that sense? Or...
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Elvis, but, I wasn't really into him. When I heard Heartbreak Hotel and all these early records when it was Scotty Moore was always playing the solo, the rockabilly jazzy solo. And because of at the same time, I'm listening to Django Reinhardt and I'm listening to Hank Marvin. And, and then this was another outlook, his way of playing was he kind of invented rockabilly as well as a lot of other players at that time. But he was the one that we heard because he was on the Elvis records, and just phenomenal. Again, choice of notes, but it was a very recognizable style Scotty had. And to meet him and find out he was the nicest guy and to actually hang with him was a pleasure. Obviously, I'm honored that I got to meet him.
But looking at your whole career, you have had so many different roles, which is kind of interesting. You've been the front man various times, the superstar, the poster boy, the face of 68. You've been the studio crack. You've been the guitar player. You've been the tour guitar player. I mean, you've had almost and of course the songwriter and the multi-platinum hit songwriter and whatever and all these things. But it's really interesting. What role did you find the most enjoyable, and maybe which kind of role did you find to be the least enjoyable? Probably the face of 68, I suppose.
Yes, you nailed it. The poster boy is the least, which has happened twice in my career. So it was the least, but I think that my as Monty Python would say, my comfy chair is a place where I'm not singing. I have a great singer, and I'm playing guitar for them, behind them, and so therefore. Portions when I wasn't singing with Humble Pie, playing guitar behind Steve Marriott was a joy, and then after Humble Pie went through the poster boy thing again from the front covers of the magazines, then in the mid to late 80s, that's when David Bowie, my school chum, called me up and asked me to play with him, on a record and on the Glass Spider tour, and that is my most comfortable position, I think. And he said, well, you'll be able to do some backing vocals. I said, no, I just want to play guitar. So I hardly did any oohs and ahs, but he did get me to sing one verse of one song. Or chorus. I forget which one it is now. Sons of the Silent Age. And anyway, so yeah. And David, it wasn't just having me play with him that was his idea. I didn't realize what he was doing at that point, because I kind of, at the beginning of from 81, 82, I kind of lost my musical credibility, because I got screamed at and I wore satin pants and I took my shirt off in too many front covers. And so what David was doing, he'd seen what was happening to me after Comes Alive, and he didn't say anything. He just booked me to play with him. And oh my goodness, it just completely turned my career around as far as people's awareness and reminding them that I was a guitar player first and foremost. So I could never thank him enough, and I still do, because everything changed after that tour for me, again on the good side,
There's this fantastic, I think it was MTV, like a video of Bowie and you walking through Madrid to get a beer or something. And I always found it so great because you were a superstar multiple times at that point already, but you seemed completely comfortable with just Bowie being the epicenter of the whole thing, going forward, and you just walking with him, and it almost seemed like
because David, see when I met David, he was, you know, when you're 13 and he's 16, he might as well be 34. You know, he was so much older than me, 3 years, you know, when you're that young. And I always looked up to him, you know, and he sort of became a surrogate older brother. And so it was almost like being with my older brother. And okay, there you are. So, and I had so much respect for him and love for him as my dear friend. And so it was, I deferred to him when I was around him. He was just something else, you know. And I don't think many people knew how caring he was for other people. You know, he treated me like I was family, you know, and I did too with him. And my father was his teacher, art teacher. And when we lost Dad, guess who called first? You know, David called, you know. So I like to tell people that because I don't think people think of him as this artist that they don't know him personally, you know, like I did. And he was a very funny, caring, good human being. And as well as all the rest, you know, he was my buddy, you know.
Coming back to you as a guitar player, what I always loved about your playing, and particularly about your solo playing, was, as you said, of course, there's a strong sense of melody, but I always found your solos to be also adventurous. They don't always go straight. They play around the thing, they play around the motif. And I've read in an interview, I think, with guitar.com, you said you always start with a blank canvas and you always like to start from scratch. So like it's almost a jazz spirit in your playing.
Always. I can never. When we do a recording for like the Frampton Forgets the Words, the latest instrumental covers that I did, you know, I would have the blank canvas for the solo, as you say, and I would do it, and that will be it, you know. And then when Rob Arthur, my band leader, and we have a video company together. He's a phenomenal artist. He's got great eyes and he's a great cameraman and editor and everything. So we'd come to do the video for the song, and I'd have to learn my own solo, which was very demoralizing because it's not the way I work, you know. So we'd have to do it in sections. You know, I'd learn like, you know, 36 bars, and then we'd film that, and then I'd learn the next because it's alien to me to play something I've already played before, you know. It's always otherwise people say to me, how do you for all this time play these numbers that you've played your entire life now? I said, because we play it differently every night. Yes, to you the song is the same, but everything within the boundaries of that number, we change a little bit every night. And, you know, I never play the same talk box solo. I never play the same solo in Lines on My Face. I don't know what I'm going to play until I actually play it. And a lot of other guitar players, and you make mistakes that way. It's easy to make a mistake, but I don't think they're mistakes. I think they're, as you used, a great adventurous. You know, it's going on an adventure in a solo for me. And yeah, maybe they're not the best built solos, but they're what I feel at the time, you know. And so, yeah, it's most important that I play something different every night.
What do you think about when you improvise? I mean, do you think about scales, or but because some people improvise but still think within the terms of what could happen? Are you just going at it in a sense?
No, I'm just trying to be aware of what chord we're on and what the bass is playing. That's so that otherwise I don't want to go too far out. I go outside the box pretty much, but but more jazzy sort of approach. But yeah, I don't really think. No, I try not to think. Let it come, just happen, And then some nights I'll listen to what we did the night before, and I go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then I'll listen to the night after. I go, wow, how did I do that? So it's a mixed bag, for me. I think my worst playing is still pretty good.
Yeah.
And my best playing surprises me sometimes. So I always look for those nights, obviously, when I surprise myself.
In an interview with Rick Beato, you've talked about, and unfortunately, I can't remember which song it was. I'm sorry about that. I just watched the interview where you said that you were improvising in the studio, you were putting everything on tape, and then your band said, let's take that riff at that lick and build a whole song out of it, and it became a hit.
Do you feel?
Thank you. Yes, of course, exactly.
Do you feel like I do? Yeah, that was with the band, the Frampton's Camel Band. We were rehearsing after the Wind of Change album. My first album was finished and out, and we were going to do our first American tour, and English, I think, as well. And we were just in this rehearsal hall in the Old Kent Road, and in London. And I would bring my Revox tape machine to every rehearsal, put 2 mics up, and record everything we did, just in case someone played something that we went, oh, what's that? And so that's when the band said, after we finished this one jam, all of them just looked at me and said, hey, wind it back about, I don't know, 2 minutes, and you played something that could be like a song, a tune. And so I wound it back, and I found that whole phrase, and in a solo. And I said, what? That's another way. Wow, that's pretty good. So then we spent the rest of the afternoon arranging it. And I had written the night before, I had written the chorus and the words too. What, just do you feel like I do? Do you, just D, F, C, G, D. And I said, we should get this into here. So first of all, I wrote, why don't we try this for a verse? And so I ding, 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 ding. I didn't have the words at that point. And then after we came up with the verse, I'd obviously had a party at the house the night before, and I woke up with a wine glass in my hand, with a hangover. I don't drink now, but I did then. And so I just wrote, let me write something for now. Woke up this morning with a wine glass in my hand. Whose wine? What wine? Where the hell did I dine? That's fine. Okay. And I've got Do You Feel Like I Do for the chorus. And then we put it all together, and it became the last number in the show from that moment on, And before anybody had heard it, that was before the talk box was involved in it. When we first did it, and we were opening for, you name it, we were opening for them. We were, we were very low on the totem pole. And but that number, from the first time we did it live, just grabbed everybody. And we thought, wow, this is pretty spectacular. So, and then when I introduced the talk box into it, round about 73, 74-ish, probably in 70, and during touring on 73. And the first night we did, instead of going down for a quiet guitar solo and building it up to the very end. We brought everything down and I did the talk box. I don't remember where it was we did the first one, but the band, we talked about it afterwards. We felt the whole room of audience, sorry. we felt the whole room move 18 inches forward like this. It was like that, you know, everybody went, huh? What's that? And and they went nuts. The audience, they couldn't believe their luck. You know, and I was totally taken by surprise that it had such a great effect, you know, because I'd heard Joe Walsh use it as a sound, Jeff Beck used it as a sound, but Stevie Wonder used it as he would talk with it, in other words, and he would do stuff that's on one of the Music of My Mind, and then he would talk and sing through it, you know, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I thought, after I realized how powerful it was in communication, my idea behind it was everybody uses it as a sound, but I want to communicate to the audience using it. So I'm actually, the computer type voice from the talk box is actually communicating, you know, therefore, and do you feel like I do was the perfect question, you know, and they went, uh-huh, you know, so it was a real surprise, the whole thing, but we loved it, you know, obviously. And so did the audience.
So is it often the case, for example, you once said that Baby, I Love Your Way was just born out of you sitting around and messing with Blackbird in mind, with those McCartney chords, like those
right
3 chords. Is it often like that you just that those things were born out of just random little incidences and then all of a sudden surprisingly turned into what they were?
Yes. I've got a couple that I've done recently because I don't know when it will come out, but I'm making a all Peter Frampton written album, new stuff, and we've recorded about 5 tracks so far. But I'm taking more time to write. But there's a couple that I have already that I haven't even played with the band yet, but just acoustic and voice or electric and voice or whatever. And I feel, and they were born out of little 10-second pieces, you know, like that piece from Do You Feel? That you get little pieces and you go, wow, I like that. I've not played. I'm always looking for something new, something that I've never played, but that's uniquely me, but it's something I haven't played before. And so, yes, I've got a couple already that, and when you get a couple that give me they have to give me goosebumps, you know, when you've got a couple that give you goosebumps and then the next one doesn't, you go, we need to put that one away. And I need to find some more that give me goosebumps or just make me feel so happy that, you know, it's mine, you know, and it's kind of, when I write, it's kind of like my solos. I don't know what's going to come out next, you know. But the great thing about the iPhone is that so many times, and I'm sure a lot of writers will say this too, you play an idea and you go, oh gosh, let me get my iPhone and put it on, and you tape it, or a digital recorder that I've got them all over the house just in case, and you put it on, and then you try and play it again. That's not what I just played, though. So what I do now is, because it's the feel that you do it with, and so before I even pick the guitar up, I put my iPhone on record. Whether I come up with rubbish, that's fine too, you know. But there might be, in a 3-minute little just jamming session, writing session, there might be that one piece that you grab and put, so I always turn my recorder, my iPhone on before I pick up the guitar now.
Is there like a huge archive of yours? I mean, be it digitally or with tapes, or put differently, if I was an archivist and I'd wade through your stuff, I could maybe then like create 100 another top one hits. I'm a good archivist.
That I do. They are all archived. Yeah, I'm crazy like that. Yeah. So, if iTunes is called music now, so I have my own library just for my songs, for my song ideas, and I will go through I'll do, say, every month I'll stop jamming for a day and I'll go through and I'll listen to them all, pick and choose, and then put them into a folder of try these. And I star them, I don't even bother with the 1 star. It's got to be a minimum of a 2-star idea, 3-star, and of course the 4-star. I never have 5-star ideas, but 4-star ideas, I'll probably work on that tomorrow,
Have you ever been wrong? Have you ever put 1 star on something and a friend of yours said, Peter, that's like 3 or 4 minimum, or something like that?
Yeah, I have actually been in front of people just playing an idea, just sort of warming up. And then I stopped and I said, okay, what are we going to write? He said, well, what did you just do there? I said, oh, that's nothing. He said, oh, no, that's something. So, yeah, I'm sure I throw away. Well, I know I throw away more than I keep, much more than I keep. It's like the profit on a tour is probably 20%, but I probably only keep 10% of what I do, what I record, if that. And I know a lot of people don't have the patience to do that and to go through and catalog them and everything, but I do have the patience, and I'll forget that what I've done, obviously, because it's stream of consciousness or whatever you call it, and I'll go through, and all of a sudden one will just come, whoa, what's that? And it's so much better than all the rest, or it hits me a certain way. And I don't know what way that is, but it just gets to me that, wow, that's different. And let me work on that right away. So,
Interesting. I don't know if you think back, but probably after having written an autobiography, you had to think back a little. I was wondering, because that sounds like a stereotype, but with your career, it's really completely true. There are so many surprising twists and turns in the whole thing, like the rise to fame and getting going up, going down, going up, then the Phoenix stuff, then you get famous various times for various things. Do you sometimes think, man, that was really crazy ride?
Oh, yes. I do. And I don't, it's almost like there's various different characters that I was throughout my life. I didn't do it like Bowie did it by changing a different character for each record. I just morphed into different parts of my life and was a different kind of outlook, So, but I think that, I look back at it all now, especially, and because I'm always in the moment, I'm not looking backwards. I don't like that. It's always looking forwards and what can I do now? What can I do now? And, but when I do look back, it's pretty amazing that I'm still here. I've been through a lot, but so is everybody. We're all the same. We just have different experiences, but we're all the same, and we just do different things for a living.
I mean, there are a lot of over the years, there have been a lot of pop cultural references to your work. For instance, I think about Wayne's World, where where Cassandra said, "Do you know Frampton Comes Alive?" Everybody knows Frampton Comes Alive. Everybody has it. And do you enjoy those tidbits, even maybe the ones that make fun of the whole thing a bit, or?
Oh, to be made fun of by those two guys. It was great. Then they called me up and they did another one, Wayne's World, whatever it was. They were doing another one. It never made, but I was in one. I filmed something for one with them, so I got to meet them. And what's his name? What are their names? Dana Carvey, and what's the other one?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers told me. He said, I was at the concert in San Francisco at Winterland when you recorded the live album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there's another actor that I can't think of right now, but that was there too. And is that wild or what?
Really wild. Always thought it's a compliment because they didn't make fun. They just stated the fact that at that time.
Oh, yeah. No, I took it in a reverent way. You know, it's true what they said. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it was successful.
Yeah. So, but both really, really nice people. And, you know, that's another thing. I've met a lot of incredibly talented people along the way. And I would say 99% of them are really down-to-earth people.
What did you think of Zappa's Persiflage, Frank Zappa, I Have Been in You?
It's funny because we had met and he called me up and he said, will you do the radio ads for my single? And I said, what? I hadn't heard the song at that point. And I said, what is the single? He said, well, it's called I Have Been in You. And I dropped the phone. I laughed so much, you know. And for Frank Zappa to make fun of me, I'll take it. And so he said, but can you do the interview, the adverts for the radio? And he said, but I don't want you to say you like me. I want you to say how much you hate my music. It was so weird. So I said, I've never liked him. I've never liked his music. I can't believe he did this to me with this song. You know, so it was all a put on, you know. So, but yeah, he was, again, I found him to be a charming person, you know, not crazy really in any way, just a down-to-earth guy that was very, very, very talented, you know, and has inspired so many guitar players and so many others.
But you never did something together? Like
we never did. He wanted me to go and do I'm in You on stage with him, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave it that I did mine and he did his. Later on, I thought, well, maybe I should have done that, but I just didn't think it was necessary.
That's true, but maybe like as a guitar player, I think that would
I know,
like because both of you are.
I know, and he was so phenomenal, and his son is so phenomenal. So yes, exactly. But you know, I have regrets. So you know, there's one right there. Yeah, I should have done that.
So, one last question, if it's possible, because I don't want to keep you here for too long. You just mentioned a new record. Are you recording this in your studio in Nashville? And yeah, I love your studio. I've seen it on how's it called? TikTok. I forgot the word.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, TikTok. And Chuck Ainley, my favorite engineer. And co-producer, we work together with the band, you know, or, you know, I've used the band on this, well, All Blues and Frampton Forgets the Words, both covers, one vocal and one instrumental, was my touring band. And they're phenomenal players, all of them. And we did some of the new record already. But I think I'm going to use some other players for some different feels, for if a number cries out for a different player on a specific instrument, then I've got the pick of the litter right here in Nashville. We've got some of the world's greatest players here.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you'll keep recording, even if you don't play live, or even if you play don't live on a big scale anymore, we can still.
I'm going to keep writing, playing, recording. Who knows? I might do a couple more gigs over here in America. I'm not sure, but it's not under my control, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's the IBM clock, as you once have said.
Yes, and it's a catch-22, because the longer I wait, the less chance I have of doing a great job that I want to do. So everything has to be done pretty quickly. COVID was not my friend, or anybody else's for that matter, in the whole world. But, I needed to come over and see you May 2020, but we got shut down. So everybody did. So, but and then we just had to wait until it seemed like a better, a safer time. Even though COVID's still out there, we feel that, and we've got COVID protocol, no backstage. Everybody has to wear a mask and test every day, because if we lose one crew member, let alone a band member, we've only got 8 shows, and I want to make sure we do them all.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful.
Well, then it was such an honor to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And please send my regards to the almighty Phoenix.
Oh, yes, I will indeed. Should I go get it and show it to you?
That would be so fantastic. That would
I wouldn't mind.
a blast.
Hold on.
Yes.
Give me a second.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's gone. It's with my tech, who's
Okay.
We actually bought a seat for it. So he's flying from San Francisco. He's got the Phoenix, but I have my Epiphone that I wrote. Baby, I love you way, show me the way, do you feel, everything. So this is my Epiphone, 1964, and it's about 3 months either older or younger than Paul McCartney's.
Oh, wow.
He wrote Yesterday on his. I wrote Baby, I Love You Way on mine. His song is much more popular than mine.
Well, your song is pretty popular in the whole world too.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have it with me. I forgot all about it.
Would you play a chord on it just so we can hear it? Or like 2 chords?
All right.
Thank you so much. That was like a huge thrill for me to see.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have a pick, but anyway, I hope that, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to see your show in Berlin. All the best, Peter, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.